everybody, Lord Maim here with part 9 of the Mass Effect 3 Insanity walkthrough. This is N7 Cerberus Abductions. This is the third of the N7 missions, and again it is based on one of the multiplayer areas. So again, enemies may come at you from weird directions. Be always aware of your surroundings, using the radials to bring up the radar so you can see exactly where everything is, just in case you happen to get flanked. The first encounter occurs almost immediately upon your entry into the level. Move up to the edge of the door and cheat the corner to attack the Cerberus troops that are at the bottom. In this first encounter, we'll have a combat engineer with a turret out immediately, so be aware of that and try to take the combat engineer out. From this position, however, be aware that there's also a door to the left that they can move up and around coming in behind you. That's why it's kind of best to stay here near the door, where you can at least duck behind cover if they happen to flank you. But you can also move around that cover and move to the window depending on the positions of the enemies. You'll see I'll kind of move back and forth between the two depending on the situation. Once again, Liara's singularity ability is invaluable in this level for crowd control, and will affect anyone that's unshielded. Both the Centurions and the combat engineers have shields, so you'll have to remove their shields using Garrus's overload ability before you'll be able to use singularity upon them. And again, right there, I'm taking fire from behind. Using the L2 or R2 buttons, you can bring up the radials, and that will stop time while you survey the area. This is another little side effect of this ability that you can use to your advantage, reorienting yourself and then immediately engaging the enemy. You can also trigger any kind of powers while in this menu, allowing them to all be triggered at once you release the button and time resume as normal. On these missions, there's no set strategy other than the basics of cheating the corner and using your L2 and R2 buttons to bring up the radar to keep an eye on the enemy. Because the areas are structured in such a way that there's no real way to block off the enemies. It's not a straight ahead trip through a level like the normal single player levels are. Enemies will come at you from weird directions. The best thing you can do is to think on your feet, and if necessary, pull back and re-engage. Going out this door, if you look to your left, you'll actually find the dog tag that you'll need for the Citadel quest, Benning Evidence. That's one of the ones you get from one of the ambassadors in the Citadel embassies. It's kind of tough to find, but it's just outside the door there. In Encounter 2, you'll see a couple of enemies, and there'll be two civilians cowering there. Those are actually going to be the focus of the remainder of this mission, which is thankfully fairly short. These two civilians you'll escort over the course of the next 3 waves, taking out small groups of Cerberus troops along the way. Again, like the previous N7 mission, unlike in multiplayer, there will be no Atlas at the end of this level, so you don't have to worry about that at least. Another thing to bear in mind is that there are several ammo caches throughout this level. It's always helpful to stock up before going to the next area. You'll find later on in this mission I'll actually run out of ammo, and I had forgotten that ammo cache is directly there at the bottom of that ladder and go far further around than I should have. So be aware of where all the ammo caches are so you know exactly which one's closest to you and best for each situation. In this encounter, the few cell troopers will also be joined by a Centurion, which will start dropping smoke bombs. This is one of the most annoying abilities that's new for Mass Effect 3. Unless you happen to have the sight on your sniper rifle that allows you to see through smoke, effectively all you have to do is take cover and wait. Here I should have meleeed this guy across the table and accidentally jumped over instead, so there's a couple of seconds of panic while I try and recover the situation. Luckily I managed to put down a singularity and incapacitate this enemy, then take him out, but that could have gone an entirely different way. The chaos of these multiplayer-based single-player missions kind of lends itself to this sort of flailing. And as always, the ton of grenades you'll be facing, just roll back out of the way behind some cover, whichever is best for the situation. Smoke will not only obscure your vision, but it will prevent any sort of powers from targeting the enemies. So unless you can see a good portion of the enemy around the smoke, you won't even get the targeting bracket around it to apply any sort of powers or abilities. Luckily, it does dissipate in a relatively short amount of time. Again, here, I'm taking fire from an area I was not expecting. Using the R2 button, I circle around, and I'm able to trigger a power and take out the enemy right away. Anytime you're taking fire from a direction you're not expecting, that should be your first move. Each wave will be indicated by the objective coming back up on the screen. You see there, defend civilians. Each time that comes up, that's another set of enemies on top of the ones you had before. And that will also trigger the civilians to move from area to area. So keep an eye on where they're going and where they end up. I've not actually seen the Cerberus troopers attack them or damage them in any way, so it's not so much a matter that they're in danger, but usually the Cerberus troops will go towards them, which may change their pathing. The most oblivious combat engineer in the world. I'm running low on ammo at this point. Had I been thinking, there is an ammo box directly behind me near the landing pad, and another one to the right. Instead, taking fire from the direction of the landing pad, with the triggering of the new wave, I went around the long way, all the way back through to a couple of boxes from the beginning, whatever you might want to call these, cargo containers. I'm not sure what they're supposed to be. Alternately, if you happen to take the weight upgrade, you may have multiple weapons that you can switch to. Personally, I preferred the upgrades to my adrenaline rush and powers and whatnot. Quite possibly the furthest point I could have gone to get ammo, and that's what I ended up doing. The more you play multiplayer, the more you'll be aware of where those ammo caches are throughout the levels, so it might be easier for those of you who spend more time in the Galaxy at War multiplayer. We talked about this in a previous commentary, but it's interesting to note that you do not have to have a direct line of sight between your squad member and an enemy for them to apply a power to them. If you have line of sight, they have line of sight. That's how the game interprets it. So while Liara is far across the area, you can still trigger a singularity on an enemy that you can see even if she can't. Sometimes when you kill a combat engineer, if he manages to deploy the turret, it'll kind of drop and deploy on its own. Occasionally you're able to interrupt him and cause it to blow up in his face, but sometimes you may have to fight an extra turret. As long as you stay behind cover and cheat the corner, it's nothing really you need to worry about. You'll hear the civilians cry out, and Cortez will bring the shuttle in, and that will be the end of the mission. Fairly short mission, but a lot of battle in a very small amount of time. That's the end of Part 9 of the Mass Effect 3 Insanity walkthrough, and 7 Cerberus Abductions. Join me again next time for Part 10, Tuchanka Turian Platoon. Till then, I'm Lord Maim. Thanks for watching.